Today we're going to be painting this negative space painting. You will be needing your watercolor palette. You will need some greens if possible. The colors that we will be using today is a bamboo green, as well as some sap green, Prussian blue, black, or a sepia. You will also need a size 4 to size 6 brush and something that's a bit finer, probably a size 1. Alright, let's get started. We're going to be starting with a wet on wet technique, so you want to use like a fairly big brush for this, and then after that we will slowly use the wet on dry technique to keep adding on the depth and dimension to this painting by actually using darker colors to build the layers. So we're going to start by actually taking very clean water, and we're going to give this whole thing a wash of water. You can also use like a light green color, so let's say I'm just going to use a permanent green here, but I am going to add some yellow into it. I'm going to add here and there. I just want to avoid these flowers over here because they are going to be colored white at the end of the painting. So if possible, you wanna just avoid them as much as you can. Yeah, so just wanna keep going. We're going to be tapping on green here and there. If you can use masking fluid to cover up the flowers, that will be great as well. That way you don't have to worry about the paint getting onto the flowers and such. Then we're just gonna tap on your paper is going to warp if you don't tape it down, so it's advisable that you tape it down before painting. So this is the wet on wet technique, so we're just going to go over with some sap green, some hooker's green. We're going to mix that into the mix. Now for this one, you want to make sure all the big leaves are covered or painted, because later we are going to paint around them. So again, I'm using permanent green number 2, sap green, and some hocus green. Okay, so you should have something like this in the end. You can also tap in some yellow green here and there just to add a bit more color variation. Just gonna add some darker green while it's still wet. Alright, so there we have it, and we are just going to let this dry. Okay, so there we have it. We are just going to let this dry, and we will come back to it once it's completely dry. Okay, now that the first layer is dry, we're going to use the same color, but we're going to add in a bit of blue into it to make it slightly darker. We're going to use hocus green and put that in. Mostly hocus green actually. Let's test it out. Want to make sure that it is darker but not too dark. Okay, so right now we are going to paint in the background around the leaves. So what we're doing is we are kind of creating the depths of the pond on the inside, right? Don't worry if you don't get the edges right and stuff, because later on you can always go back and touch up again. So that's the color that you are more or less looking for. It has to be darker than the first layer. And the thing is, we will keep doing this and repeating this process until we have about 4 layers in total. And take your time in doing this. This process will take a while. All in all, it might take up to 3 to 4 hours to complete this with the drying. But I promise you that the results will be worth it in the end. Okay, so we are almost done. I'm going to use a smaller brush to go around the smaller details here. Where it's harder to reach with a bigger brush. Alright, and then this area as well. Alright, so this is what we have right now. We're just gonna let this dry and then we will come back and work on the next layer. Okay, so now that this layer has dried, we are going to draw on more leaves between each layer. So we're just going to go over with a pencil. Maybe we'll have one here. Just one here as well. They can be as big or small as you want them to be. Okay, one here. Alright, so once you have everything drawn on, we're going to be painting on the second. Okay, so right now we are going to go in with an even darker color and use the same bamboo green color that we have here. And I'm going to use some shadow green mixed with a bit of like Prussian blue. Okay, gonna make it even darker, and we're gonna paint around those areas again. Okay. So you just want to keep repeating the process again, same as what you've done before. Just make sure it's darker. Otherwise, all your effort of painting is gonna go. Okay. So during this time, you might want to also refine the edges of the leaves that you painted in the first round. So you need to make sure that they're dark enough that the ones below it stand out. Okay, thank you. Alright, so we have layer number 1, layer number 2, and layer number 3. Now we are gonna move on to layer number 4. So let's see if we can do this. One here. Okay, here. Alright, so everything else is going to be very, very dark. Okay, so we have our 4th layer of leaves now, and we are going to start painting. Now this time I will add a lot of blue into the mix to make it as dark as possible. Here as well. We are using a 300 GSM cotton watercolor paper sheet. So anything, if you can, use something similar if you plan to recreate this at home using a different artwork maybe. Okay, now let's move on to this area. Touching up the edges so they look a bit more refined and neat. Okay. All right, so we're almost done. Just this area left. Okay, so now that we are done with the leaves, we're just gonna let everything dry. In the meanwhile, I'm just going to add some shadows onto the flowers, just some grey shadows. Can create this with really light purple with a bit of black. You're not going to color the whole thing, just want to partially add a bit of shadow on each petal. In the meanwhile, for the leaves that are already dry, like the first layer, we're going to go over again with the green in the beginning. So we're going to repeat that with all the pointy edge leaves. Just want to divide. Alright, so you have those 3 greens covered, 3 green leaves covered. Now we're going to take your hooker's green or any of the darker greens and we're going to line this leaf here. And make sure that they are painted like so. Follow the green, the natural curvature of the leaves. So we're just going to repeat this step as well with all the leaves that we see here until it forms something like a lily pad. Small one here as well. What we're going to do with the darker leaves at the back, we are going to use an even darker shade of green. We're going to add some blue and sepia together. So this one is here. So the color that we are using again is a Prussian blue together with a bit of sepia. use a fine liner brush for it, or if you have a round brush, that's also fine. Just be a bit more stable. Follow the curve of the line, they're not just like straight lines. Finally, you have the darker leaves as well. Alright. Okay, finally, when you are done with all the leaves, you can go ahead and take a bit of yellow and put in the pollen for the flowers in the middle. For the really dark leaves, you can have the option of giving it very faint. Just to make it stand out a little. I'm using white paint, but you can also use a white gel pen to do this. There you have it. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial and try it out. You can get our coloring sheets all throughout Watercolor Month from us when you purchase a minimum of 30 ringgit from in-store. Thank you so much and happy painting!